Welcome, rare gems. Why would a woman who is capable of leading deliberately choose not to? That question becomes especially interesting when we talk about the Sigma female, because sometimes her distance from leadership has nothing to do with weakness, insecurity, or a lack of ambition. In fact, it can come from understanding leadership more deeply than people realize. She may notice the politics behind titles. She may recognize how quickly responsibility can turn into dependency, and how managing people can become more exhausting than doing the actual work. She may be perfectly capable of making difficult decisions, taking responsibility, solving problems, and thinking several steps ahead, yet still wonder whether the position of leader is worth the price attached to it. And here is where many Sigma females misunderstand themselves. Your reluctance to lead does not automatically mean you lack leadership ability. Sometimes it means you have not found a reason important enough to use it. You may have the qualities required for leadership without being attracted to status. But there is another possibility worth confronting. Sometimes independence is wisdom. Sometimes it is avoidance wearing the clothes of wisdom. In this video, we are going deeper into that uncomfortable difference and discovering why some Sigma females have genuine leadership potential, but deliberately stay away from the traditional path. Stay with me until the end, because the final point may completely change how you understand your own nature. And if any of this speaks to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and join our community of people exploring the deeper side of the Sigma female mindset. Now, let's get started. The rare gems. Number 1. She may be more interested in solving the problem than owning the position. There is a strange kind of leader who does not particularly care about being called a leader. She sees something broken, and her first thought is not, "Who is going to notice that I fixed this?" Her first thought is, "Why is this not working, and how do we fix it?" That difference says a lot about the Sigma female. She can be sitting in a workplace where everyone has spent 2 hours discussing a problem and quietly notice that the real issue is something nobody has addressed. Maybe the team keeps missing deadlines and everyone is blaming laziness. She notices that the instructions keep changing halfway through the project. Instead of giving another speech about discipline, she identifies the actual bottleneck and suggests a practical solution. Then something interesting happens. People may naturally start following her thinking, even though she never asked them to follow her. She is attracted to competence, not ceremony. A title may impress other people, but it does not automatically impress her. Being called a manager, director, leader, or boss means very little if the person cannot solve real problems. This is why she can sometimes look strangely uninterested in opportunities that other people would desperately pursue. Give her a prestigious position with endless meetings, politics, and appearances, and she may quietly wonder whether she is better off doing meaningful work without all the theater. But there is wisdom here, and also a warning. If you are a Sigma female, do not confuse your dislike of unnecessary status games with a responsibility to remain invisible forever. There are moments when your ability to see clearly becomes useful, precisely because other people are willing to listen to you. You do not have to chase a title. You do not have to become obsessed with being in control. But if you have the ability to make things better, hiding from responsibility simply because you dislike the spotlight can become another form of limitation. Perhaps your leadership was never supposed to begin with a position. Perhaps it begins with a problem that matters enough for you to finally say, "Let me handle this." Number 2. She knows that leadership often requires performing a version of yourself. What if the part of leadership she dislikes most is not the responsibility, but the acting? This is something many people rarely talk about. Leadership is often presented as if it simply means being confident, decisive, inspiring, and socially engaging. But real leadership can sometimes require something less glamorous, managing how you appear to other people. A Sigma female may notice this very quickly. She may sit through a meeting where everyone is expected to look excited about a new project, even though half the team knows the plan is unrealistic. She might understand why the manager is smiling, praising the team, and creating excitement. But internally, she may be thinking, why are we pretending everything is fine when we clearly have a problem? That does not necessarily mean she lacks leadership ability. It may mean she has a strong resistance to becoming a carefully packaged version of herself just to make other people comfortable. Leadership can require diplomacy. It can require patience when you would rather be direct. It can require encouraging someone who is underperforming instead of simply telling them the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes you have to walk into a room carrying your own frustration and still communicate calmly because everyone else is watching your reaction. The Sigma female may understand all of this, but she may dislike what prolonged performance can do to a person. She may wonder, if I have to constantly manage my personality, my expressions, my tone, and my image just to remain acceptable as a leader, when do I actually get to be myself? That question deserves respect. But there is an important lesson here. Authenticity does not mean saying everything exactly as you feel it. Mature leadership is not pretending. It is learning how to express the truth without allowing your emotions to control the delivery. So if you are a Sigma female who has avoided leadership because you dislike political performances, remember this. You do not have to become fake to become influential. You simply have to become skilled enough to remain genuine without being careless. Your quiet nature is not a leadership defect. It may simply require a style of leadership that actually belongs to you. Number 3. She does not need to be seen as a leader to know she is capable of leading. Have you ever noticed that some women can lead effectively without becoming emotionally attached to the idea of being called a leader? This is where the Sigma female becomes particularly interesting. She may develop the ability to make difficult decisions, organize people, solve complicated problems, and remain steady when situations become messy. Yet the word leader may not mean much to her. She does not necessarily need the title to confirm what she already knows about herself. For example, imagine a project at work begins falling apart. Deadlines are being missed, people are confused, and everyone keeps waiting for someone senior to take control. The Sigma female may quietly examine what is happening, identify where the process is failing, divide the problem into manageable parts, and help everyone move forward. When the situation is finally under control, she may simply return to her desk. No announcement, no celebration, no desperate need to hear someone say, "You are a natural leader." That is because her confidence can come from evidence rather than labels. She has watched herself handle difficult situations before. She knows what she can do because she has experienced it. This creates a very different relationship with ambition. Some people chase positions because the position gives them a feeling of importance. Others become capable first and discover that the position itself is optional. The Sigma female may belong more naturally to the second group. But there is a deeper lesson here. Knowing you can lead and actually accepting responsibility are two different things. Capability is potential. Leadership is what happens when that potential is deliberately used for something beyond yourself. So if you are a Sigma female, do not assume that your lack of interest in titles means something is missing in you. You may simply value substance more than labels. However, be honest with yourself. If you keep refusing opportunities because you genuinely dislike unnecessary status games, that is a choice. But if you keep running from responsibility because being visible makes you uncomfortable, that deserves examination. You do not need a title to prove you can lead. But when something genuinely matters, do not let your dislike of the title prevent you from doing the work only you are prepared to do. Number 4. She may reject leadership. because she has seen what power does to people. Have you ever watched someone receive a little authority and suddenly become a completely different person? That experience can change the way a Sigma female thinks about leadership. She may have seen a supervisor who was once approachable become controlling after receiving a promotion. She may have watched a respected colleague start humiliating people simply because nobody could challenge their decisions anymore. She may even have witnessed someone who once complained about unfair treatment eventually behave in exactly the same way when they finally gained power. Those experiences leave a mark. The Sigma female may begin asking questions that many people never consider. What happens to a person's character when nobody can easily tell them no? Does authority reveal who someone already was, or does it gradually change them? Can someone remain fair when their decisions affect other people's careers, opportunities, and lives? These questions can make leadership look very different to her. She may not romanticize the corner office, the impressive title, or the ability to give orders. She sees the responsibility underneath it. She understands that having power over people creates opportunities to either protect their dignity or damage it. And perhaps that is why she sometimes keeps her distance. She is not necessarily afraid of responsibility. She may be cautious about what responsibility can do to her own character. Imagine she becomes the person who approves promotions. Suddenly, personal relationships can influence professional decisions. Someone she likes may not deserve the opportunity. Someone she dislikes may actually be the best candidate. Leadership forces her to confront uncomfortable situations where being fair may mean disappointing people. That is where real leadership becomes difficult. If you are a Sigma female, remember this. Being suspicious of power can be healthy, but completely avoiding power is not automatically wisdom. Sometimes good people need authority because careless people already have it. The goal is not to become powerful for the sake of power. The goal is to become strong enough to hold responsibility without allowing responsibility to corrupt your character. Perhaps your hesitation is not a sign that you are incapable of leading. Perhaps it is evidence that you understand exactly why leadership should never be treated casually. Number 5. Her leadership often appears only when something actually matters. Why does she sometimes seem completely uninterested in leading, yet become the person everyone looks toward when something genuinely important goes wrong? This is one of the strangest things about the Sigma female. Her leadership may not be switched on all the time. It can appear highly selective. Give her a pointless argument about who should get credit for a small task, and she may sit quietly and let people go back and forth. Create a serious problem where someone's future, safety, reputation, or livelihood is genuinely at risk, and suddenly her entire approach can change. She becomes focused. She asks direct questions. She separates facts from emotions. She starts making decisions. That contrast can confuse people. Someone who has watched her remain quiet for weeks may suddenly see her take control during a crisis and wonder where that side of her came from. But perhaps it was there all along. She simply did not consider the earlier situations important enough to spend her energy on. Think about a family gathering where everyone is arguing over something completely insignificant. She may choose not to participate because there is nothing meaningful to accomplish, but if a serious financial problem suddenly threatens the family, she may be the one checking the numbers, finding possible solutions, calling the right people, and asking everyone to stop panicking long enough to think clearly. That is not inconsistency. It can be selectivity. The deeper lesson is that leadership is not measured by how often someone gives orders. Sometimes it is revealed by what happens when circumstances remove the luxury of standing back. However, there is something she should watch carefully. Selective leadership can become an excuse for avoiding responsibility. Not every important problem arrives with flashing lights. Some situations look ordinary until neglect makes them serious. So if you recognize yourself here, ask a harder question. Am I conserving my energy for what matters, or have I become so detached that I only respond when a crisis becomes impossible to ignore? Your ability to become decisive when something truly matters is valuable. But wisdom is knowing that sometimes leadership means noticing the small problem before it becomes the big one. Number 6, she can detect groupthink earlier than the group can. Have you ever been in a situation where everyone seems to agree, yet something inside you is saying, "This does not make sense"? That can be one of the more unusual traits associated with a Sigma female. She may notice the weakness in a group decision long before the group notices it themselves. It could happen at work. 10 people sit around a table discussing a new plan. Everyone is nodding because the manager sounds confident, the deadline is close, and nobody wants to be the person who slows everything down. The Sigma female notices one small problem that could eventually destroy the entire plan. She may raise it once. If everyone dismisses it, she may stop arguing. Why? Because she understands something uncomfortable about groups. People do not always agree because an idea is good. Sometimes they agree because disagreement feels expensive. Nobody wants to look difficult. Nobody wants to challenge the person with authority. Nobody wants to be blamed if the plan fails. So people gradually convince themselves that the obvious problem is not really a problem. She can sometimes recognize that psychological shift before it becomes obvious. But here is the surprising part. Seeing the problem does not automatically make her want to become the hero who saves everyone. She may say what she needs to say, document her concern, and step back. That can look passive to other people, but there is a difference between refusing to think and refusing to fight a battle where nobody is willing to listen. Still, she has to be careful. There is a point where preserving your peace becomes an excuse for withholding your judgment. If you genuinely see a serious problem and have the knowledge to help, silence can also carry consequences. The mature Sigma female learns when to step back and when to step forward. She does not challenge people simply to prove she is smarter. She speaks when the issue matters, explains what she sees, and accepts that people may disagree. And if they ignore her warning, she does not need to become bitter. Sometimes people understand a lesson only after reality becomes the teacher. Her gift is not simply seeing what others miss. It is learning when that insight deserves a voice. Number 7, she may prefer influence without the psychological burden of being the symbol. Why would someone capable of changing an entire situation deliberately avoid being recognized as the person who changed it? Because influence and visibility are not the same thing. A Sigma female may actually enjoy influencing outcomes. She may notice a better way to organize a project, suggest a small change that saves everyone hours of unnecessary work, mentor someone privately, or ask one uncomfortable question that completely changes the direction of a discussion. But when people start saying, "You should lead this," she may suddenly become uncomfortable. There is a reason. Being responsible for an outcome is one thing. Becoming the symbol of that outcome is something else entirely. Once you become the visible leader, people begin attaching expectations to you. Your decisions are examined more closely. Your mistakes become easier to remember. People may interpret your silence, your facial expression, your absence, even your personal choices through the lens of the position you occupy. She may understand that psychological burden and decide she would rather influence the machine than stand on top of it. Consider someone at work who notices that a department is wasting money because everyone follows an outdated process. She quietly redesigns the workflow, explains it to a few colleagues, and helps the system improve. 6 months later, productivity has increased significantly. The manager gets the praise. She may not care. Or perhaps she does care, but she cares more about the result than receiving public recognition. That distinction can reveal something important about her personality. She may not be motivated by becoming a symbol. She may be motivated by seeing something work properly. But there is a danger here too. If she consistently hides behind the scenes, people may eventually receive credit for ideas that originated from her. Worse, decision-makers may never realize how much leadership ability she actually possesses. So the mature approach is not to chase attention, but not to fear visibility either. You can influence quietly and still step forward when your presence is genuinely necessary. You do not have to become the face of everything you improve. But when the situation demands accountability, courage means being willing to attach your name to your contribution. That is where quiet influence can evolve into real leadership. Why would someone capable of changing an entire situation deliberately avoid being recognized as the person who changed it? Because influence and visibility are not the same thing. A Sigma female may actually enjoy influencing outcomes. She may notice a better way to organize a project, suggest a small change that saves everyone hours of unnecessary work, mentor someone privately, or ask one uncomfortable question that completely changes the direction of a discussion. But when people start saying, "You should lead this," she may suddenly become uncomfortable. There is a reason. Being responsible for an outcome is one thing. Becoming the symbol of that outcome is something else entirely. Once you become the visible leader, people begin attaching expectations to you. Your decisions are examined more closely. Your mistakes become easier to remember. People may interpret your silence, your facial expression, your absence, even your personal choices through the lens of the position you occupy. She may understand that psychological burden and decide she would rather influence the machine than stand on top of it. Consider someone at work who notices that a department is wasting money because everyone follows an outdated process. She quietly redesigns the workflow, explains it to a few colleagues, and helps the system improve. 6 months later, productivity has increased significantly. The manager gets the praise. She may not care. Or perhaps she does care, but she cares more about the result than receiving public recognition. That distinction can reveal something important about her personality. She may not be motivated by becoming a symbol. She may be motivated by seeing something work properly. But there is a danger here too. If she consistently hides behind the scenes, people may eventually receive credit for ideas that originated from her. Worse, decision-makers may never realize how much leadership ability she actually possesses. So, the mature approach is not to chase attention, but not to fear visibility either. You can influence quietly and still step forward when your presence is genuinely necessary. You do not have to become the face of everything you improve, but when the situation demands accountability, courage means being willing to attach your name to your contribution. That is where quiet influence can evolve into real leadership. Number 8. She may have no desire to build a following. Why would a woman capable of influencing people have absolutely no interest in collecting followers? Because she may care far more about what she builds than how many people are watching her build it. This is where the Sigma female can have a very different relationship with influence. In a world where numbers can easily become a measure of importance, she may look at popularity and wonder what the attention is actually accomplishing. 10,000 people watching you does not automatically mean you have created something meaningful. A large audience can admire you and still learn nothing from you. She may prefer substance over visibility. Imagine a talented woman who develops a better way of running a business. She could spend months building a personal brand, constantly appearing online, explaining her philosophy, and making herself the center of the story. But perhaps that does not interest her. She would rather improve the business, train capable people, and create something that continues working even when she is not present. That does not mean she dislikes people. It means she may not want her identity to depend on people's attention. There is also a psychological cost to having a following. Once people become invested in your image, they begin expecting consistency from you. You cannot easily change your mind without being questioned. You may feel pressured to keep saying things your audience already likes. Eventually, you can find yourself protecting an image instead of pursuing the truth. The Sigma female may instinctively recognize that danger. She may think, I would rather be respected for what I actually do than admired for an image I have to maintain. But here is the part worth remembering. Avoiding popularity should not become an excuse for avoiding impact. If your knowledge can genuinely help people, refusing to share it simply because visibility makes you uncomfortable can waste something valuable. You do not need to build a cult around your personality. You do not need thousands of people repeating your name. But if your ideas, skills, or experience can make someone's life better, letting those ideas travel is not vanity. It is contribution. Perhaps real leadership is not about how many people follow you. Perhaps it is about how much stronger people become because your work existed. Number 9. She may be waiting for a problem worth her leadership. What if she has not rejected leadership at all, but simply has not found anything worth leading yet? This possibility is rarely discussed. We often assume that ambitious people are motivated by titles, promotions, authority, or the desire to climb higher. But the Sigma female may operate from a completely different source of motivation. She may not become deeply committed because someone offers her a bigger office. She may become committed when she encounters a problem that genuinely matters to her. That changes everything. Imagine a woman who has spent years turning down management positions. People assume she lacks ambition. Then she discovers that a project she cares deeply about is failing. People are confused, resources are being wasted, and nobody seems willing to make the difficult decisions required to fix it. Suddenly she steps forward. She starts asking uncomfortable questions. She studies the problem. She brings the right people together. She makes decisions. She accepts responsibility for the consequences. The woman who appeared uninterested in leadership is suddenly leading. What changed? The title did not change her. The mission did. This is important because some people are not motivated by climbing a ladder. They are motivated by building something, protecting something, solving something, or changing something they believe deserves to be better. That kind of motivation can be incredibly powerful because it is connected to meaning rather than status. But there is a warning hidden inside this idea. Waiting for the perfect mission can become another excuse for staying comfortable. Not every worthwhile responsibility arrives with excitement. Sometimes leadership begins with an ordinary problem that nobody else wants to deal with. So if you recognize yourself in this, ask yourself a difficult question. Am I genuinely waiting for something meaningful, or am I waiting for leadership to become comfortable before I accept it? You may never feel completely ready. You may never find a perfect mission. But when something genuinely matters and your abilities can make a difference, remember that leadership does not always begin with ambition. Sometimes it begins with frustration, sometimes it begins with responsibility, and sometimes it begins with one simple realization. If nobody is willing to fix this, perhaps I should. Number 10. She understands that leadership magnifies your flaws, not just your strengths. What if the real reason she hesitates to lead is because she knows exactly what power could expose in her? This is a deeper fear than simply being afraid of responsibility. The Sigma female may understand that leadership does not magically transform a person into a wiser, calmer, or more mature human being. It gives their existing character a larger stage. If someone is impatient, authority can give that impatience consequences. If someone is insecure, power can turn insecurity into controlling behavior. If someone struggles to admit mistakes, leadership can give them enough authority to surround themselves with people who rarely challenge them. She may have watched this happen before. Consider a talented employee who becomes a manager. Before the promotion, she was patient and cooperative because she had to work with everyone. After receiving authority, she begins interrupting people, dismissing criticism, and assuming that disagreement is disrespect. The promotion did not create those weaknesses. It gave them room to operate. A self-aware Sigma female may understand this possibility and take leadership seriously because she knows that her decisions will affect real people. She may ask herself uncomfortable questions before accepting authority. Can I handle criticism without becoming defensive? Can I admit when someone else has a better idea? Can I make an unpopular decision without punishing people emotionally? Can I remain fair when I personally dislike someone? Can I accept responsibility when my decision produces a bad result? Those questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs that she understands the weight of influence. But there is a danger on the other side. Self-awareness can become excessive self-examination. She can spend so much time worrying about becoming a bad leader that she never gives herself the opportunity to become a good one. Nobody enters leadership perfectly prepared. Character develops through responsibility, reflection, mistakes, correction, and experience. So if you are a Sigma female, do not demand perfection from yourself before you accept responsibility. Take your flaws seriously, but do not worship them. Your impatience can be disciplined. Your blind spots can be challenged. Your mistakes can become lessons. Perhaps the fact that you are concerned about what power could do to your character is precisely why you should learn how to handle power carefully. Leadership does not require a perfect person. It requires someone willing to remain accountable while becoming better. In final words, what if the reason you have avoided leadership is not because you lack what it takes, but because you understand what leadership can demand from you? Perhaps that is one of the deepest contradictions of the Sigma female. You may be capable of solving difficult problems, making uncomfortable decisions, seeing patterns others overlook, and remaining composed when situations become complicated. Yet the traditional idea of leadership may still leave you cold. You may not want the title, the politics, the constant attention, or the responsibility of becoming everyone's solution. And that is okay. But there comes a point where you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Are you walking away because the position genuinely conflicts with your values, or are you walking away because responsibility would force you to become more visible and accountable? There is a difference. Being independent does not mean refusing every opportunity to lead. Being a Sigma female does not require you to remain on the outside forever. Your individuality becomes more powerful when you can use it deliberately, rather than allowing it to become a wall between you and your potential. You do not need to become controlling. You do not need to chase status. You do not need to copy someone else's idea of what a leader should look like. You simply need to recognize when your ability can make a meaningful difference and have the courage to use it. Maybe your leadership was never meant to be about commanding people. Maybe it is about bringing clarity where there is confusion, responsibility where there is avoidance, and direction where people genuinely need it. That may be one reason you identify with the Sigma female mindset. You are learning that independence is not the absence of responsibility. It is the freedom to choose responsibility consciously. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Do you think Sigma females avoid leadership because they dislike power or because they dislike what often comes with it? And if this conversation gave you a new perspective, subscribe and join our community for more honest and deeper conversations about the Sigma female mindset. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.